You want to know what's really messed up? I helped my ex-husband hire the woman he left me for. Yeah, you heard that right. I literally sat in on her interview, gave my input, and said, "She seems great, you should hire her." And now? Now she's living in what used to be my dream life while I'm here rebuilding everything from scratch. Look, if you've ever felt like the universe was playing some sick joke on you, this story's gonna hit different. Because by the end of this, you'll understand why I'm actually grateful he showed me who he really was. Even if it took him 7 years to do it. So here I am, 32 years old, single mom, starting over completely. And honestly, some days I can barely get out of bed. My daughter asks me every morning, "Where's Daddy?" And I have to smile and say, "He's at his new place, honey." When what I really want to say is, Daddy decided he liked his coworker better than us. The worst part isn't even the loneliness, though that hits hard. It's the silence. You know that feeling when you come home and there's nobody to tell about your day? When something funny happens and you reach for your phone to text someone who's not going to text back anymore. I catch myself setting 2 plates out for dinner. Still, after 6 months. But here's what nobody tells you about getting divorced when you're young. Everyone has opinions. My mom calls me every day asking if I'm taking him back, like this is some romantic comedy. My sister keeps sending me articles about co-parenting like I haven't figured out I still have to see this man every week for the next 16 years. And my friends? Half of them don't know what to say, so they avoid me. The other half keep trying to set me up on dates because apparently being single for 5 minutes means I'm desperate. I'm not ready for any of that. I can barely figure out how to be me without him. Let me back up and tell you how I got here, because this story doesn't start with the divorce. It starts way before that. I was 22 when we met, fresh out of college, working my first real job, and honestly, I was a mess. Just got out of this relationship with this guy who was so jealous he'd show up at my work to check on me. Red flags everywhere, but I was too young to see them. Then I met him, my ex-husband. He was older, divorced already, had his life together. And after dealing with Mr. Jealous Psycho, he felt like safety. Like finally, an actual grown-up. He pursued me hard. Flowers, dinner dates, long conversations about our future. And I fell for it completely. See, I grew up in this house where my parents were married 40 years, where divorce was basically a dirty word. So when he talked about forever, about building something real together, I thought, this is it. We moved in together after 8 months. I know sounds fast, but it felt right. He helped me figure out grad school, supported me through my degree. We started looking at apartments, talking about marriage, the whole thing. And honestly, for a while there, it was good. Really good. We bought our first place together, and I remember thinking, we did this. We built something. I felt so proud walking into that apartment, our apartment. The wedding planning was intense. I wanted everything perfect because this was supposed to be it, you know? One and done, just like my parents taught me. But then, 3 days before the wedding, I'm doubled over in pain. Emergency room, surgery, the whole nightmare, peritonitis. Doctor said if we'd waited another day, I could have died. Wedding postponed. All those guests, all that money, everything on hold while I'm lying in a hospital bed feeling like my body betrayed me at the worst possible moment. But you know what? He stepped up. He was there every single day, dealing with vendors, rescheduling everything, taking care of me. My whole family kept saying, "See? This is the kind of man you marry. This is real love." And I believed them. We finally had our wedding 6 months later. Smaller, simpler, but it felt even more meaningful after everything we'd been through. Like we'd already survived our first real test as a couple. The first few years were exactly what I'd dreamed of. We were building careers, traveling, talking about kids. Everything felt like it was falling into place exactly how it was supposed to. When I got pregnant, he seemed excited. We painted the nursery together, picked out names, did all those cute couple things you see in movies. I thought, this is what happiness looks like. But something shifted after our daughter was born. At first, I blamed it on new parent stress. Everyone said the first year was hard, that marriages go through rough patches after kids. So when he started working late more often, when he seemed distant, I figured it was normal. I was doing most of the night feedings, most of the diaper changes, most of everything, really. And when I'd bring it up, he'd say, "I'm working hard to provide for our family." Which, fair enough. Except, he started going out for drinks with co-workers more. Weekend work trips became a regular thing. And whenever I asked to join or suggested we hire a sitter so we could go together, there was always some excuse. I started feeling like I was married to a stranger who happened to live in my house. The job thing happened when our daughter was about 18 months old. His company was hiring for his department, and he asked if I'd help review applications. Sure, why not? I had HR experience from before. There were maybe 10 candidates, but one stood out. Young, smart, great qualifications. And honestly, she was beautiful. Not that I thought anything of it at the time. I mean, you don't hire people based on looks, right? I told him she seems perfect for the role and thought nothing of it. She got the job, started working directly with him on some big project, and suddenly his late nights made more sense. The weekend work trips were always to the same city where she lived before she moved here. But I trusted him. We'd been together 7 years at this point. We had a child together, a mortgage, a life. I ignored the way he'd smile at his phone. I ignored how he started dressing nicer for work. I ignored the fact that he stopped talking to me about his projects but seemed really excited about work all the time. You know what's funny? Looking back, I can see all the signs, but when you're in it, when you love someone, you make excuses. You tell yourself stories that make it okay. He's just passionate about his job. He's working hard for our family. I'm being paranoid. The conversation happened on a Tuesday night. Our daughter was asleep, and I was doing dishes when he just sat down at the kitchen table and said, "We need to talk." You know that feeling when your stomach drops? When you know something terrible is coming but you can't stop it? He said he wasn't happy. Said he felt like we'd grown apart. Said maybe we got married too young, moved too fast. All these things that made it sound like it was mutual, like we both just drifted. I'm standing there with dish soap on my hands asking, "What are you saying? Do you want counseling? Do you want to work on this?" And he says, "I think it's too late for that." Too late? We hadn't even tried. I suggested therapy months ago and he said we didn't need it. I suggested date nights and he was always too busy. I suggested we take a vacation together and he said we couldn't afford it. But it was too late? That's when I knew. I didn't have proof yet, but I knew there was someone else. You don't just wake up one day and decide your marriage is over unless there's something else waiting for you. He moved out that weekend. Just like that. 7 years? Done. The truth came out 2 weeks later. And honestly, I wish it had stayed hidden. A mutual friend felt bad for me and decided I deserved to know. She'd seen them together at some conference. Not just talking, together, holding hands, acting like a couple. It was her. The woman I helped hire. The woman whose resume I reviewed, whose interview I sat in on, whose hiring I basically approved. I felt physically sick, like actually nauseous. I had to pull over on my way home from work and just sit in my car trying to breathe. It wasn't just that he cheated. It was that he'd been planning this for months, maybe even before he hired her. It was that every late night, every weekend trip, every time he looked at his phone and smiled, it was all her. It was that I'd been living a lie and everyone could see it except me. But you know what the worst part was? When I confronted him about it, he didn't even deny it. He just said, I didn't plan for this to happen. Like that made it better. Like falling in love with someone else while you're married just happens. Like catching a cold. He said he'd been unhappy for a long time but didn't know how to tell me. Said they had a connection he'd never felt before. Said all these things that basically translated to, she's everything you're not. The next few months were the darkest time of my life. And I'm not being dramatic. I mean genuinely dark. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. I'd lie in bed at night imagining them together, wondering if she was better than me in ways I couldn't even comprehend. Wondering what was so wrong with me that my husband of 5 years could just replace me. My daughter would ask why I was crying, and I'd have to make up some excuse because how do you explain to a 2-year-old that daddy doesn't love mommy anymore? The logistics of divorce are brutal when you're heartbroken. Dividing up furniture, deciding who gets what photos, figuring out custody schedules. Every single decision feels like another piece of your life being torn away. And then there's the money stress. Going from 2 incomes to 1, having to find a new place to live because he wanted to keep the apartment we bought together. Having to explain to everyone why your life just imploded. My family was furious at him, which should have felt good but just made me feel worse. My mom kept saying things like, I never liked him anyway, and you're better off without him. But that didn't help. If he was so obviously wrong for me, why didn't anyone say anything 7 years ago? I started therapy because honestly, I was scared of how dark my thoughts were getting. I'd never felt so completely worthless in my life. My therapist made me face some uncomfortable truths about myself. Not about why he left. That was on him. But about why I stayed in something that wasn't working for so long. She made me realize I'd been trying to be the perfect wife based on what my parents taught me, not based on what actually made me happy. I'd ignored my own needs for so long, I didn't even know what they were anymore. She asked me point blank, when was the last time you felt truly happy in your marriage? And I sat there for 10 minutes trying to remember. Not content, not comfortable, actually happy. And I couldn't come up with anything recent. That's when it hit me. I hadn't just lost my husband. I'd lost myself years ago. I'd been so focused on being the wife I thought I should be that I forgot to be the woman I actually was. I gave up friends he didn't like, hobbies he thought were silly, dreams he thought were unrealistic. I made him the center of my universe and forgot that I was supposed to be the center of my own life. The hardest part about having a kid with someone who destroyed your trust is that you can't just cut them out completely. You have to find a way to work together for your child, even when seeing their face makes you want to scream. My family kept telling me to take him for everything in the divorce. Make him pay, make him suffer. But honestly, I just wanted to move on. And more importantly, I wanted my daughter to have a relationship with her dad, even if he was a terrible husband. So we worked out custody. Every other weekend, one night during the week, split holidays. It killed me the first time I had to hand her over, knowing she was going to his new place, probably meeting his new girlfriend. But you know what I learned? Kids are resilient. More resilient than adults, honestly. My daughter adapted way better than I did. She never asked why mommy and daddy didn't live together anymore. She just accepted that some families look different. That taught me something important. I was holding on to pain that wasn't serving anyone, especially not her. About a year after the divorce was final, I started doing things I hadn't done in years. Small things at first, buying clothes I actually liked instead of what I thought looked appropriate, listening to music he used to complain about, staying up late reading just because I could. I reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with, started taking classes just for fun, began traveling with my daughter to places I'd always wanted to go. And slowly, very slowly, I started to remember who I was before I became someone's wife. I wasn't bitter anymore. Not exactly. I was still hurt, still angry sometimes. But I was also curious. Curious about what my life could look like now that I was writing the story myself. That's when I met him, my current partner. And I have to tell you, I almost ruined it before it started because I was so convinced I was broken. He was younger than me, 4 years younger, which doesn't sound like much, but felt huge at the time. I kept thinking, what does this guy want with a divorced single mom? We met through work. He was consulting on a project, and we kept running into each other at meetings. He'd make these little jokes that actually made me laugh, which was rare those days. And slowly, he started asking if I wanted to grab coffee after meetings. I said no for months, not because I didn't like him, but because I was terrified of getting hurt again. Plus, I had all these stories in my head about being damaged goods, about no one wanting to date someone with baggage. But he was persistent in the sweetest way. Never pushy, just present. He'd remember things I mentioned in passing, ask how my daughter was doing, actually listen when I talked. The first time we went out for real, I spent the entire dinner waiting for him to realize what a mess I was and make an excuse to leave early. Instead, he walked me to my car and said, "I'd really like to do this again." What surprised me most about dating after divorce wasn't how hard it was. I expected that. It was how different I was as a partner. I wasn't trying to be perfect anymore. I wasn't monitoring every word to make sure I seemed like good wife material. I was just myself, messy, complicated, healing myself. And he loved that version of me, the real one. He met my daughter about 6 months in, and I was terrified she'd reject him or compare him to her dad or have some kind of meltdown. Instead, she climbed onto his lap during movie night and fell asleep there. That's when I knew this was different. He didn't try to replace her father or overstep boundaries. He just showed up consistently, the way you show up for people you love. He learned her favorite bedtime stories, remembered she doesn't like her food touching, celebrated her little victories like they were his own. And somewhere along the way, without any big declarations or official conversations, he became her stepdad. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Here's the thing nobody tells you about healing from betrayal. Sometimes the plot twist isn't about your ex at all. Sometimes it's about discovering who you really are when you stop trying to be what everyone else wants. I spent so many years being the good daughter, the perfect wife, the ideal mother. I was so busy performing the role I thought I should play that I never asked myself what I actually wanted my life to look like. Getting divorced forced me to figure that out, and what I discovered shocked me. I'm actually pretty great when I'm not apologizing for taking up space. I'm funny. I'm smart. I have opinions and dreams and ideas that matter. I can take care of myself and my daughter and still have energy left over for someone who actually deserves it. The woman my ex-husband fell in love with, she probably thinks she won some prize. But honestly, I feel sorry for her, because she's getting the same man who looked at his wife and child and decided we weren't worth fighting for. Good luck with that. If I could go back and tell my younger self anything, it would be this. Stop trying so hard to be loved that you forget to love yourself. I wasted 7 years trying to be perfect for someone who was never going to appreciate me anyway. Not because there was something wrong with me, but because there was something missing in him. The right person doesn't make you feel like you have to earn their love every single day. They don't keep you guessing whether you're enough. They show up, they choose you, they make sure you know you matter. And if someone can walk away from you and your child for someone they've known for 6 months, let them. That's not love, that's infatuation. And infatuation fades. Real love, the kind I have now, grows deeper with time. It survives bad days and fights and stress and all the messy parts of actually building a life together. My daughter has a mother who loves her and a stepdad who chose her. She gets to see what a healthy relationship looks like every day. That's worth more than any intact marriage built on lies and resentment. So yeah, my ex-husband left me for the woman I helped him hire. And yeah, it nearly destroyed me for a while there. But sitting here now, watching my daughter and my partner build a blanket fort in our living room, I can honestly say I'm grateful. Not grateful for the pain, not grateful for the betrayal, but grateful that he showed me who he really was before I wasted another decade of my life. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you leads to the best thing you never saw coming. Sometimes you have to lose everything you thought you wanted to find everything you actually needed. If you're going through something similar right now, here's what I want you to know. You're not broken. You're not too much. You're not unlovable. You just loved someone who wasn't capable of loving you back the way you deserved. And that's not your fault. Your life isn't over. Your story isn't finished. This is just the part where everything changes for the better, even if you can't see it yet. Trust me on this one. I know what I'm talking about. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more honest breakup stories. And remember, you're stronger than you know. Bye.